Family, I'm going to be moving over here to Twitter to get this video. I hate when I got to jump around, but that's just what I got to do sometimes. Because certain platforms that have what you want, certain platforms won't. Well, X now, so I'm jumping over here to X. Damn, why would it sign me out? I hate when it does that. I was already logged in on my phone. It should have been logged in over here. Just a second, family. Bear with me. It logged me out for some strange reason. Hold on, family, just a second. Here we go. Fair use.
Maybe I'll put the video up. Tariq Nasheed is apparently subliminally talking about.
Yeah, family, I want to talk about this, this Captain Tarayarch, out here, trying to disrespect the lineage and put out the false narrative that T.S. Giselle, which is a Twitter troll, is, somehow the first lady of FBA. And we, with that FBA mindset, we know better than that. T.S. Giselle is a Twitter troll, who is a trans man, pretending to be a woman. And we all know that, who gets in Twitter spaces and trolls, and he's trying to put out the false narrative that T.S. Giselle is a representative of FBA, and, I don't like, that Hebrew Israelite thing, no way, along with the Pan-Africanism thing, because that's, these things are set up to, erase our lineage, because they lump us in with, Puerto Ricans, Jamaicans, Africans, and try to say we all the same people, which we not. They the same thing, if you ask me, just dressed up in different ways. You know what I mean? Because they undermine our lineage and erase, specific lineage-based demands that we FBAs are out here standing on. So I got the audio and the video of this Captain Tarayarch, which is a op, trying to get out here and, put out the false narrative that, T.S. Giselle is the first lady of FBAs, when we know in all actuality he's a man, trying to pretend to be a woman, and he's not more than a troll, you know what I mean? So, it's a bad faith argument that, people are just, people just try to, a lot of these people, they're ops, and I believe that this is coming down from the top. We seeing, FBA lineage, is heavily under attack right now, and a lot of people got the same talking points. They coming in here with the same, bad faith arguments, and they'll try to, say that they coming at Brother Tariq, but they using Brother Tariq as a proxy to attack our whole FBA lineage, you know what I mean? And damn that, I got to get out here and stand on business for the lineage, And like I said, the Hebrew Israelite thing, along with the Pan-Africanism thing, the Pan-Africanism thing, they're the same, things, just, dressed up in different ways. They both undermine our lineage. It tries to lump us into minority coalitions, vague things, that erase our FBA lineage and our ties to this land. You know what I mean? So, damn that, you know what I mean? So I got the audio and the video of them. We're going to get into it. Fair use.
Hey, man, I'm going to be real brief, man, and maybe I'll put the video up. Tariq Nasheed is apparently subliminally talking about me because he's too vagina to say my name directly. So I'm the person that he's trying to call COINTELPRO XYZ because I text and
And now that we represent the lineage, we see a heavy attack on our FBA lineage family, delineating and picking up the soil, because folks made a lot of money off our FBA lineage. You know, they was making money off our behinds. You know, we FBAs, you know, we say what's hot and not. And, you know, a lot of people are losing out on that money bag now that we ain't, you know, being lumped into all of these different things, you know, that erase our unique lineage, you know, and we're just picking up the soil. So a lot of people, you know, they feel left out and they feel that, you know, they ain't down no more and ain't a part of, you know, what we got going on in terms of representing the lineage. And another thing this Captain Tarayarch cat tried to do was, you know, he tried to, you know, make FBAs put the framework up as that, you know, to try to say that we some kind of group, and we ain't no damn group. So I know this is coming down from the top. A lot of these people are agents in all actuality that are getting out here, you know, and talking bad on the lineage, because a lot of people, they ain't getting this no more. We drying that up for them, you know, that cash flow, now that FBAs are representing the lineage, you know what I mean, and just being about ourselves, you know, and not being lumped in with other people, you know, and they just gonna have to be mad, you know, that's something. We don't give a damn if people mad. We're going to represent the lineage, whether who likes it or not. I keep telling folks to move because this FBA freight train coming through, and if you don't move, you're going to get ran and moved to the side. You know what I mean? But let's continue.
Asked him if a man pretending to be a woman that's calling himself the queen of the FBA was something that they represented. And then he gets mad at me for asking him, and I'm only asking him because he's the...
Because it's a bad faith argument to begin with. You framing it, you know, if, you know, a trans man can be is the queen of FBA, and when we FBAs, you know, we ain't got no leaders and no hierarchy. The dude T.S. Giselle was just trolling, so yeah, anybody gonna get mad at that because, you know, your argument is in bad faith. You framed it wrong to begin with, and you done that deliberately. You know what I mean? And you, furthermore, you can't stop somebody from trolling you. You know, trolls are always gonna come. You know, how can you stop somebody from trolling you? You know, anybody can be trolled.
Quote unquote head, especially on Twitter Spaces. So I figure I go to the source because we had a relationship, and then instead of him respecting it, he calls me agent, talks about me subliminally. That shit don't really matter. What's diabolical though is that straight men who's supposed to be about foundational black people would allow a gay man to represent himself as the queen of your so-called movement.
We don't have a movement. See, the argument is just a bad faith argument. He framed it wrong, and this is done deliberately. We see this, you know, talking point that FBAs are a group coming from multiple people, and that ain't no coincidence. That's coming down from the top. You know what I mean? And you can't stop somebody from trolling the lineage. You know what I mean? You could be trolled, Captain Tarayarch. Anybody can be trolled. We can't stop nobody, you know, but everyone that with some good common sense know that T.S. Giselle, you know, is a man and just trolling, you know. FBA is a lineage. And in that lineage, you're going to have people with different mindsets and ideologies, you know what I mean? Furthermore, you know, to add to that, you know what I mean? So, yeah, this is just a bad faith argument, and anyone would get mad the way in which he framed it, you know, is T.S. Giselle, you know, which is a man, you know, trying to pretend to be a woman, the queen of FBA. It's a bad faith argument. He done that deliberately. You know what I mean?
Movement. What's worse, asking if it's true or letting some straight...
You shouldn't even ask no shit like that, homie. You know it. You know it's a bad faith argument. You just doing that because you don't stand the game from us representing our FBA lineage. You know what I mean? Because typically, you know, cats, you know, don't like that because it leaves them out there. You know, they feel like they're not a part of it. You know what I mean? Because we ain't letting our history and our culture that's unique to over here on American soil, you know, go to other people to capitalize off of it. Because Pan-Africanism, along with that, you know, Hebrew Israelites mess is part of the reason why Fat Joe felt so comfortable to come out the side of his face and claim that Latinos created hip hop. We ain't doing that. We gatekeeping and making sure that all our contributions and things that we made over here on American soil get locked into FBA society. And that's why a lot of these people are mad, you know, and trying to attack Tariq and the lineage. And they'll use Tariq, you know, as a way to attack all of us, you know. So that's why I get out here, you know, and stand on lineage business when these false narratives are put out there.
Letting some gay man troll you to being that. A gay man could never troll the Israelite movement, and we accept
anybody could be trolled, homie. You can't stop somebody from trolling you. So that's just a bad faith argument. Anybody could be trolled in all actuality. Even I could be trolled. I get trolled on the internet,
And we think it's funny and we think it's cute. We would never do that. But the FBA apparently will let a gay man or a trans man troll them. So whose vagina?
Yeah, this dude is just a op, putting out the same talking points, as a way to try to attack our FBA lineage. The way he framed the thing, was wrong from the gate. He tried to frame us as a movement, this, that, and the other. And, regardless of, how people feel, our FBA lineage for sure as hell ain't going to stop being represented. We're going to keep, beating on the drum for the lineage. You know what I mean? People can feel how they want to feel and take it how they want to take it. But this FBA freight train ain't slowing down. You better move or you're going to get moved, because either way, we're going to get our just due and we're going to keep representing and putting on for our people, But moving right along. Now I want to talk about this scam African, Seti, but I got to go over here to YouTube, family. This guy got 50 million videos, with FBA in the title, talking down upon our lineage, which is a bunch of nonsense, because in all actuality, Seti sees that Pan-African, that Pan-African scheme ain't, going the way he thought it was. So he got to put FBA in the title because he knows the lineage, our lineage is popular right now. It's a hot topic. So in order for him to get a couple of views and things like that, he got to come at the lineage, and put our lineage, in the title, and that's a bunch of nonsense. You know what I mean? He's talking some, this guy said you guys got Pan-Africans in the museum, the Hidden History Museum. Now he's talking about take them out of the museum, this, that, and the other. While there are Pan-Africans in the museum, they're foundational Black Americans, we can have whoever the hell we want furthermore in the museum. It sounds like Seti just mad, disgruntled, and hating, because we making moves as foundational Black Americans, and we bringing things into reality and making things happen, with that Pan-Africanism thing could have never done in a million years, Pan-Africanism stagnated our people and, put us all in the same boat, as continental Africans, in which erased our unique history as foundational Black Americans that was forged over here on American soil. You know what I mean? Pan-Africanism been around for so long, we had to retire and bury it. It was just a strategy. And once a strategy ain't working, it's time to discard that, and us picking up lineage base and representing and putting on for the lineage has gotten us further than, what Pan-Africanism could ever have in a million years. And furthermore, you can't use Pan-Africanism was an old strategy we tried to use. It wasn't nothing but, a weapon that we thought we had to, combat systematic racism, white supremacy. We thought we had allies, and trying to, be down with people, in the diaspora. But it come to find out, we were the only ones standing on business. We look around and nobody else but FBAs was standing there, because all tethers know is put on their flip-flops and flee, so it wasn't nothing but a strategy, and once a strategy don't work, it's time to pivot to strategy B, and strategy B is lineage based, and it's been working fine. We've been bringing things about. We got the talks of reparations in the public lexicon, and we making, more gains than what Pan-Africanism, ever could have gotten us, and you can't use old weapons to fight new wars, or you're destined to be defeated. Pan-Africanism was an old weapon, so we had to update the weapons. This is like I said, that Pan-Africanism thing is like, having old school books in a classroom full of kids, but if the school books ain't teaching the kids, how to get by in today's society, it's time to do away with them old school books. You got to update, the textbooks, and that's what we've done, and we getting further than what we ever gotten, by representing the lineage. So, Seti's just mad, frustrated, old head who been on the internet for so long and ain't really gaining no traction. So the only way he can gain some sort of traction is put, FBAs all up in the title of his videos and be running his mouth. So we're going to get into it because he's talking a bunch of nonsense. He constantly, is mentioning FBA, acting like he ain't an ops, saying it subtly, as to, not really say it, but he's saying it. So, we don't go in full-fledged on him, you know what I mean? And damn that, you know, we standing on lineage business. I don't give a damn if these old scam Africans don't like it or not. This FBA freight train gonna keep moving, and we gonna keep standing on lineage business, you know? But let me pull up the one where he was saying about remove them from the Hidden History Museum. I think this is it, family. Fair use.
How did this?
No, family, this is the first one I'm going to touch on, where he's saying, you know, FBAs never practice Pan-Africanism to, you know, we never practice Pan-Africanism to say it's dead, and we ain't never went to the continent of Africa, this, that, and the other. And, you know, Africans from the continent, continental Africans ain't trying to be over in Africa. They fleeing over here. You know, we ain't got to use an outdated ideology, you know, that don't benefit us, you know, that other people get to capitalize and make money off our asses, you know, while we're sitting there left holding an empty bag, you know. Seti is just a mad, frustrated scam African who's mad that, you know, that the FBA delineation movement and us representing our lineage is drying that bag up for him. That's why a lot of people are mad and frustrated that we drying up that Pan-Africanism thing along with that Hebrew Israelite thing that tried to generalize us and throw us all into the same category as these people, you know, when these people don't stand on the kind of business we do. But let's get into it, family. Fair use.
All right, family. I ain't even got my comments on. Let me get them on up there. Okay. Yeah, want to scapegoat the concept of Pan-Africanism. Yeah.
I even heard this scam African Seti talking about FBA is an ideology. See, they keep this talking point keep coming down. You know, we keep hearing this, you know, over and over again, you know, and FBA is a lineage. You know, he knows it's a lineage, but he's deliberately trying to, you know, frame it as an ideology. That's Pan-Africanism. That's a outdated ideology that we buried and we in turn, we birthed, you know, lineage-based, being about the lineage and representing for our people and our specific history that happened over here on American soil. The days of looking back to Africa are old because that's a deliberate disrespect and a slap in the face to our ancestors that paved the way over here on American soil. And damn Seti and anyone else who tried to say otherwise, you know?
Yeah, I got family in here. Yeah, that's what's up. Which I know niggas ain't had no part of at all. You see what I'm saying? Ain't got no.
Okay, the Holla gang, all Hebrews don't teach the same thing? Okay. Yeah, but the majority of them, what I see, they try to lump them all, you know, everybody all in the same category with Puerto Ricans, Jamaicans, Africans, and that's a way to me to try to undermine FBA lineage. I stand on lineage, you know what I mean? That's all I stand on. I don't need to have these minority coalitions and all with all of these other people that secretly work behind the scenes to undermine our people. Damn that, you know, I stand on lineage business.
Ain't never had no part of, but they scapegoat Pan-Africanism. You see, saying, you know.
And we was the main ones lifting up Pan-Africanism, you know what I mean? And the energy wasn't reciprocated. We think we have allies in the war fighting systematic racism, white supremacy. They get over here, you know, these continental Africans and these Caribbean tethers, they take a knee to the system of racism, white supremacy. And that never been FBA's disposition. We used to fight in racism, white supremacy, and injustice. We always stand on business.
Pan-Africanism misled us. You see, no nigga. The titty ballet misled you, nigga. That's what misled you. You see what I'm saying? Oh.
Yeah, so there is some Hebrew Israelites that's down. Hebrew Israelites that's down. If they down, then, you know, that's good, you know. But I'm talking about the ones that ain't down, you know what I mean? So let me clarify that. The ones that ain't down, they opposition, and we too getting them out the paint, you know what I mean? Because some of them that I see, you know, a good deal of them, I'm not going to say all, but a good deal of them Hebrew Israelites, they try to, throw us all into one category, and that erases our unique lineage as foundational Black Americans. And that, undermines the need for our reparations, you know what I mean, too, if we let that go on. So that narrative got to be checked, that we all going to be lumped into one category. And that's what Pan-Africanism seeks to do. But, yeah, let me get on this, family.
Oh, wow. I was in the hood. You feel what I'm saying? See, you can't, while I was in the hood. Nigga, I was the only nigga talking about, and didn't even really have too many conversations. You see what I'm saying? Out of the whole hood, nigga, when I was studying, it was not another nigga nowhere in sight. You see what I'm saying? Talking about what I was talking about. You see what I'm saying? Them niggas was out there with the sack.
But you looking in the hood, you look in a place, if you going to McDonald's to get food, you can't expect, food with proper nutrients in it. You went to McDonald's, you got tons of FBA brothers that got Black consciousness. It don't mean we gotta subscribe to, some Pan-Africanism, you know what I mean? So miss me with that nonsense, you know what I mean?
You see what I'm saying? Them niggas was out there with the 40 ounce. You see what I'm saying? Them niggas was out there in our love, family. You see, niggas out there.
This guy's a clown, man, and he keeps mentioning FBA to try to, get some, algorithm boost, because he knows that FBA is a popular topic, us discussing the lineage, on these social media platforms. So he's just trying to gain momentum, because that whole scam Africanism, train is, coming to a halt.
They're rolling up. You see, niggas was trying to get rims on their car. You see, niggas was trying to hook up sound systems.
Listen to the part he says, it's coming up though, where he says, we weren't trying to go, we ain't go back to Africa, or we wasn't trying to go back. The continental Africans trying to get the hell out of there. So why would we even want to go there, That's a bunch of nonsense.
Systems in the car. Niggas wasn't talking about no Chancellor Williams. They wasn't talking about no Dr. Ben, or no Marcus Garvey, or no Malcolm X.
Yeah, we got a troll in here. This person, you got to get him up out of here. If you,
it ain't talking about
you a moderator.
You see?
I'm going to go ahead and block
you. I'm trying to figure out how Pan-Africanism misled us. I'm trying to figure this out. When did it happen?
They meant to do good by Pan-Africanism, but Pan-Africanism is just too vague, and it forces, us into, representing some Africa, which most of the time continental Africans ain't representing damn Africa, you know what I mean? So we ain't representing that. We representing the soil, and they was meaning to do good by it, but it was outdated material, and we now updated the textbooks and the material, keeping it in mind of that, classroom scenario I was talking about. You can't use outdated textbooks, on the kids. You got to, update the material every once in a while, and you can't use, old weapons to fight new wars, or you're destined to be defeated. So we've updated the material. We standing on this lineage business, because Pan-Africanism has failed in so many ways. We got to be honest, and I know some of the elders might have meant good by it, but, if they was around in today's climate, to see us getting undermined by all these continental Africans, this, that, or the other, they probably would, drop that, if they was FBA lineage, I know they for sure as hell wouldn't go along with, the undermining of our people, so like I said, it's outdated material. We're updating the material and textbooks, and we just standing on lineage business from here on out, and this is why these scam Africans are mad, because we stopped the gravy train. A lot of people are used to capitalizing off of our asses as foundational Black Americans, and with us representing the lineage, we're being, exclusive, instead of all inclusive, and that's the part that they hate.
Because even within what you call, Black America, the broader aspect of Black America, say 40 million Black Americans, in quote unquote, how these niggas conceive Pan-Africanism, somebody that's going back to Africa. Out of 40 million black people in America, nigga, you be hard pressed to find 1,000 niggas that say right now that they're actively in the process of trying to move back to Africa.
Why would we want to go to Africa when the continental African don't even want to be in Africa? They don't represent no damn Pan-Africanism. I just wanted to show you how like illogical this guy is, you know? Why the hell would we want to go back to, you know, Africa? Why would we want to, you know, go to Africa rather, you know, and, you know, represent some Africa, you know, when they don't even want to do it. You know, they trying to get the hell out of here. It's just best we keep on representing the lineage, you know what I mean? Because we ain't some generic African. Yeah, you know, everybody got, you know, African in them, you know, because as far as we know, the world, you know, started from there and then people, you know, branched out. But, you know, you don't, people don't try to lump, you know, all Puerto Ricans in the same, I mean, all like Latinos in the same category, you know, like a Puerto Rican and Mexican. Why the hell they try to do it with us, you know? Them days is over with. We representing the lineage and, you know, people going to have to deal with that, you know. And I also see Seti, you know, make some comments about that I didn't particularly like about Elijah Muhammad, you know, Garvey was better than Elijah Muhammad. And I disagree because, you know, I judge a person, you know, how good, you know, they are or wouldn't, you know, as a black leader on what tangibles did they build up. You know, Elijah Muhammad built tangibles that's still around, you know, the Nation of Islam is still around. You can't deny that. They taught people how to do for self. And Garvey, you know, he did some cool things, but that material, you know, it's not applicable nowadays, you know what I mean? And he for sure as hell ain't better than our FBA brother, Elijah Muhammad, you know what I mean? Because Garvey had to come over here to America to get it popping. He didn't get it popping in Jamaica, you know what I mean? He didn't, you know, let's keep it real. He got around foundational black Americans and we, you know, boosted up his message, you know, and he was trying to get us to go to Africa, you know, to leave here and go to Africa, you know, and damn that. Why would we leave something where our ancestors got, you know, blood, sweat, and tears in the soil and we built, you know, we built it up? Why would we leave that to, you know, go back to Africa, you know, when nobody in the FBA's family been in Africa for hundreds and hundreds of years? It just don't make no sense. So, you know, he was wrong in that regard. Elijah Muhammad stood on a lot of truth and cleaned up a lot of brothers and sisters in the community off of drugs, this, that, and the other. So I always give him respect. And, you know, he was one of the greatest, you know, he was more greater than, you know, for sure as hell, Garvey, you know, in that regard, you know, because he built tangibles, he has success and things that's still around. You know, the Nation of Islam is still intact on up until this day. You know, what Marcus Garvey tried to do, you know, I think he tried to go back to Jamaica or something and run for office. I might be wrong or something like that. And they didn't even put him in. They got some, you know, YT person in, you know, so he was upset and frustrated with Jamaica. You know, that's why he left and came over here and had to get the message popping. So, yeah, you know, we ain't obligated to pick up Africa when, you know, no one else is. We got our own unique lineage and folks just going to have to deal with that. You know what I mean? But this is what he was saying about the museum. I want to touch on that as well. The Hidden History Museum about having Pan-African, take them off the wall. It's hypocritical. FBA is an ideology, this, that, the other. I think this is it.
Thanks to Restore, Prime Time is back.
This is my time. I didn't want to be bold any longer.
Damn, hope I don't get copyrighted. Hold on, family. Fair use.
You know, Africa, a black nationalist, He taught at Pan-Africanism. So when you talk about the great Khalid Abdul Muhammad was a Pan-Africanist. That's what he was.
But he was foundational black American, you know, so we can have these individuals up because they belong to our lineage. And furthermore, like I was saying, I think if these individuals was around, even if they was Pan-Africanism, you know, if they could see, you know, how our people are being done today and, you know, the influx of all of this mass immigration, these tethers coming over here to America, undermining us, getting in political office, they would say the hell with that as well, you know, that Pan-Africanism thing, because it's outdated material. You can't use old weapons to fight new wars or you're going to fail. I'm going to keep reiterating that.
Okay, what I'm saying? So you mean to tell me I'm going to give up all these great minds for some shit you talking about? Man, nigga, you could beat it, man. You ain't that great. You're not on that level, and you must understand that. You see, you got I don't know what kind of agenda, and I'm talking in general now, you know, and if a motherfucker take it personal, that's on them. Because you saying one thing, we calling you out. Why you got leaders in there? You see what I'm saying?
And like I said, we can have anybody we want to have in Hidden History Museum. You know, if they foundational Black American, we can have them in there. You know, even if they wasn't foundational Black American, you know, what the hell are you doing? It sounds like he just mad that, you know, we got a museum, you know, and all of the years of, you know, Pan-Africanism, this, that, and the third, them folks ain't got it popping. You know what I mean? That's been around, you know. It was just relatively recent, you know. We've always represented our lineage, but it was just relatively recent, you know, when the delineation movement and things like that were brought about. You know what I mean? So we made more strides in that time than they made in all of them years. You know, come on now. Shout out to FBA business. Seti, man, we delineating and all his arguments are a straw man. We go visit places and bring our FBA asses home. Yep, that's a good point, family. Then he brings up religion like who we worship. Yeah, he's got like a gazillion videos, this dude on FBA. So, you know, I just had to address it. I got to stand on truth to power, even if I'm the only one standing on it, you know, but I know a lot of FBA family is with me because I've seen a few other, you know, FBA channels addressing this, you know, this nonsense, you know. And, you know, like I said, he keeps the name of FBA in his title to try to gain some algorithm boost, you know, because he knows that damn Pan-Africanism thing is a dying brand, you know, and we rebirth lineage base where we looking at our lineage over here on American soil. Everybody got some, you know, African genetics, but we're going to keep representing, you know, lineage base from here on out.
Take them down. If that ain't the philosophy that you cherish, then you should take them down. I don't, you know.
Talking about take out the Pan-Africanists from the Hidden History Museum, you know, out there in LA, like Francis Cress Wilson, this, that, and the other. Even if there was Pan-Africanism years ago, you know, that's outdated material. If our ancestors and our elders were still around, I doubt that they would be pushing that, you know, even if they did push it, you know, because they will see it's a different ball game. You know, you can't go to a baseball field with a basketball and expect to play ball. You know what I mean? It's just outdated material. We've revamped the material and we're pushing for lineage base, you know, and we taking care of lineage business. You know what I mean? And we getting more done now than what that Pan-Africanism thing has done, you know. And salute to B1 Business on the $10 dono.
Oh, I don't put up Muhammad and I don't put up other groups. I don't put up Noble Drew Ali. I don't shoot them down and then you look up on the walls and shit and you, I used to go to play.
You just hating, dude. If you know, want a museum to do, you know, whatever you want in there, go create your own museum. But don't tell us in, you know, FBA society how we supposed to move and operate. We do what the hell when we want and what we want when we want. You know what I mean? And if there's Pan-Africans in the museum, they in the museum because they belong to our lineage, you know what I mean? And that is what it is.
Places, wait a minute, you know, motherfucker didn't put something like that. Ain't me, man. Y'all got to turn the cameras and show my teachers. I don't want to be behind nothing and it got some motherfuckers that ain't, you know, a part of the ideology that I believe in. You feel what I'm saying? And so, wait a minute, let me get this up here.
And we were the only people lifting up Pan-Africanism at one time, but we just seen we was getting undermined, this, that, and the other. You know what I mean? So, you know, he's coming in here with this bad faith argument. He's just a mad, frustrated, you know, scam Africanist Seti dude. You know what I mean? Mad that we drying that bag up, you know, and we focusing on our lineage, you know, from here on out. That's the new wave. And, you know, we drying up that gravy train for a lot of these individuals. You know what I mean? And, we doing right, you know, because the fact that, another point, this is a good point I just thought of, family, the fact that, you know, we've delineated and we made this much headway and, you know, everybody is attacking us from left and right and trying to box our FBA lineage in, that shows you how powerful we are and we making a statement, you know, with this new Black Renaissance movement we got going on, the delineation movement, we making tons of headway and folks is just mad. I even heard this Seti trying to, you know, frame it as, you know, it's an ideology. Pan-Africanism is an ideology. FBA is a lineage. You know what I mean? And saying that we trying to, detach people from being Pan-Africanist, this, that, and the other. We just telling our people what's the real. We ain't gonna let them be misled. We telling them you don't need to look all the way, back to Africa to pull on no greatness. We got greatness and done fly things here on American soil. You know what I mean? And damn anyone who don't like it, we gonna keep putting out this lineage-based messaging and representing for our lineage, from here on out. That's the new wave, you know what I mean? So I just wanted to bring that to the family's attention. But this got me mad, this constant attack, and how people, constantly focused on what FBAs is doing, you know what I mean? Because that shows you how significant what we doing is making an impact, because people don't attack nothing that ain't making a true impact or, doing something significant, like the old saying goes, that's how you made it. When people are constantly talking about you, running their mouth, that lets you know that what you're doing is true, right, and exact. You know what I mean? So, yeah, family, we just, I had to expose this and talk about it, while I know, Pan-Africanism, that's a dead mindset that's led our people nowhere, and it, lumped us in, with all other people, and it was a way to undermine FBA lineage, if you ask me. But, even with that Hebrew Israelite thing, I understand that all of them ain't under the mindset of, lumping us all in, and trying to, because the majority of people I hear talking about the Hebrew Israelite thing, they trying to lump everybody in together, so, my fault in that regard, because if all of them don't do that, but I don't rock with nothing, that's trying to, erase our FBA lineage, over here on American soil, so, I just wanted to expose, this Captain Tarayarch nut and this, scam African, Seti. So yeah, family,